Okay, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on Landry 100 today, but the bottom line is speculation is still alive and well. As I've been saying quite a bit, all of these stocks were bought at brand new highs. And you see this one, TMC, and my slide is off. 414 was back here. I think it was on this day here. So this should be right there. And it took off immediately, but then it came right back in. And then it subsequently took off afterwards. Now that's kind of a good example of why you don't want to, if you're going to trade breakouts, unless we get into a rip-roaring bull market like 1999, you want to make sure you have a big list of stocks, like in this case 100. And I don't know how small this list could possibly be. It'd still not have that problem. Jeff in the group, in the Facebook group, and he's a client. He has he knows a lot more about statistics than me, and he seems to think that number could be much smaller. I just figured 100 is a good round number. And this has been a wonderful thing. I rebooted this. I did this years ago, and then I just recently, or I should say it's been a year or so. And the point is, I'm trying to proof of concept, trying to prove a lot of proofs of concept, such as momentum begets momentum. Unfortunately, momentum does end badly. Breakouts are prone to failure, but if you buy enough of them, you do okay. I've known a few breakout traders who have abysmal accuracy, but every now and then they catch a few big winners. Kind of, it's just like us. That's all. That's another nuance of trend following. But anyway, this one's up 184% since April 14. And you can see it's had a pretty good run. So this is the day it was bought on that right there from this arrow. But you can see after a pop up the next day, which was looking fantastic, it came back in hard, and you were actually underwater quite a bit. And that's the thing, is you never know when that correction is going to come. That's the danger of buying these breakouts. But if you buy enough of them, especially when the market's blowing and going, you'll do okay. Now, speaking of market blowing and going, as I've said 1,000 times, and I'll show you a couple here in just one second, in a market like crypto, if Bitcoin, the bellwether there, obviously is doing really well, and the shit coins, SHYT, are also following suit, the inefficiency of those shit coins or altcoins is fantastic, to where you can go in and actually play the breakout. And I'll show you that in just one second. So what good is this thing? Well, like I said last week, is there a way to capture these trends intraday? I've been experimenting with it a little bit, and I might actually have to admit I am experimenting a little bit with volume buzz. I know I'm not a big fan of volume, but someone who I wasn't sure was what's the right word? I don't know if forthcoming is the right word, but I don't know. Jury's still out. Traders usually don't brag. If you ever see me bragging, or I get excited, but I don't brag because I know I can get my ass handed to me any minute. But this particular gentleman was bragging one day because he said he uses volume buzz and he's buying stocks that are up. I don't know about the volume buzz part. I do believe that there is something with relative strength. And with relative strength, you're just looking at the highest percentage gainers of the day, and you're looking to get into those stocks. Now, if the market is blowing and going, this would actually print money. And as I've said quite a bit, I had one client took my Landry list, stayed in the top 5 every day, and he did this over 2 periods of time. And both of those periods were just, the market was just going straight up. I don't know if one was 99 and when the other one was, but I know one was probably 99. You can make a lot of money playing the relative strength like this. But if the market gets choppy, or if it's anything less than the mother of all bull markets, then not so much. But anyway, I'm just kind of noodling with that to see if I could make something happen. And I've had mixed results with it. When it works, I feel like I'm a genius, but then when it doesn't, I'm like, Dave, what are you doing? You know, so let me experiment with that a little bit more before we get too excited. One thing that's kind of interesting with this, when I started breaking it down into the sectors, I was able to see where the money's flowing, okay? You can see here, it helps, like I said a second ago, it helps to show the money flows. But the interesting part is that biotechnology is a big hunk in here, actually the biggest hunk, unless you count unless you count the metals and the gold as one, and then that's close to 20% of the Landry 100. But biotechnology is a big slice. And what's interesting is if you look at biotech overall, especially like the IBB, and we'll take a look at it in 1 second, but there's a lot of overhead supply there. So I wouldn't rush out and buy the IBB. But what's interesting is over this period of time, the biotechnology on an individual basis, the stocks have been, I've been seeing more and more and more setups there. So looking internally, biotech has been doing really well, even though the overall sector has its issues. And obviously gold and industrial metals and minerals have been doing really well too. So there's the breakdown. One of the cool things about it, and I know I'm a nerd, but I'm starting to see some cool little trends develop again, especially in some really small areas like the small scale nuclear. There's just one stock in here, but if you look at some of those stocks, they're doing really well. And another example would be these, and I don't know exactly how to describe them, but electronic stocks or semiconductor type of stocks that are involved in like SDLP, I think would be one of them. These power stocks that are somehow related to the batteries and other type of things. I don't know exactly what you would call those stocks, but I think it's a SDLP is one. No, SLDP would be one of those type of stocks, and it's the Landry 100. So if you look at the Landry 100, you can see those stocks in there. So those smaller areas that are developing trends could offer some huge opportunities. And I think by maintaining this momentum list, it's going to help me and my clients obviously find these particular stocks. So I do publish the Landry 100 almost daily in my Facebook group, which you have to be a member of, Dave Landry. You have to be a gold member at least of DaveLandry.com. Anyway, a lot of the things I just said are here, so no need to go through that again. Okay, I want to go through a couple of trades for Crypto Corner, and then we're going to jump into the live charts. Now, last week I talked about this one, and like I said a minute ago, sometimes with crypto, when everything's moving, now keep in mind, you have to be patient, but you really don't have to be that patient. It's like a bull bear cycle in crypto is about every 6 weeks. Now, if Bitcoin can keep on keeping on, maybe everything can get into a bull cycle, hopefully not a bear cycle. But the good thing is you're able to go in and play these altcoins over and over again, because it's like they don't all just go and then implode, and then you're in a bear market for years or whatever. It's like they go, they implode, and then they rinse and repeat. And you could do really well with a little money management, of course. Now, last week, I admitted my guilt on this one. I bought it on 16th or 17th, and it was I was anticipating a breakout, and I may have gotten a little early. Possibly I could have waited a little bit more, an extra penny maybe, or half a penny. But I thought it looked pretty good. I thought it was worth a shot. And then not a whole lot happened the next day. And then the following day, I woke up and I checked my phone, and I'm like, oh, cool. I hit the initial profit target on that. So that's cool. 20% is what I've been putting in for the initial profit targets. If you look at the trading service, if you look at the spreadsheet, I added recently, or it's probably been 6 months, but I added in the percent the stop is away, the initial stop is away, which gives you the initial profit target. And that varies per position. And I can, if you go back and look at those spreadsheets, you can take a look at that. DaveLandry.com/archives or YouTube/Dave Landry core methodology playlist. But anyway, in crypto, I just put in a 20% IPT. Technically, I probably should be doing some volatility analysis, but this just seems to be working for the time being. Now at 20%, I'm going to take off half of the position and bring the stop on the remainder to break even. Anyway, so I admitted my guilt last week. I forgot to place the order. So when I got to my office, I'm like, gosh darn it. And that's exactly what I said. I didn't say mother, father, or anything. I completely forgot to do it. Now, it's not big bucks. Okay. I think it was just $1,000 of this thing. But you don't want to get sloppy, even on a small scale. You can't get a little bit pregnant. You don't want to start those bad behaviors. Now, fortunately, this morning when I woke up, I know I put the order back in, and I woke up this morning. It's like, okay, we finally hit that IPT, thank God. And now I'll stop out, worst case, at break even on this. Now, as I've been saying quite a bit, when I do these initial profit targets, I'm doing all this in a very small way. And I would suggest you do the same thing in crypto. I've seen some people do some big stuff, and you can get into a lot of trouble really fast. So I would keep it small in crypto. But in this particular case, small position, like $1,000. But what I've been doing is I've been mining off, so to speak, a small crumb of that on every winning trade like this. So $25 at the IPT. And then on this particular one, for instance, I put in another $25 to come out when it's a double, okay? Because sometimes these things will just spike higher, like crazy spike. And it was one a while back. Like every double, I'd take off another $25 or whatever. And through the process is like $200 or $300 extra that went off to Bitcoin. And the reason I call mine to Bitcoin is because if you were to actually buy a miner nowadays, unless you bought a really expensive one, it would actually lose money. It's very hard to make money mining Bitcoin, especially in today's day and age. Leave that to the professionals. So here is Ripple, which is another one that was making brand new highs. And again, it shot up 20% and sold half at 20%. Technically, I should be stopped out right about now. I'm still in a little bit of that or half of that, and we'll see how it shakes out. And once again, $25 gets mine to Bitcoin.